and welcome. I'm Melinda Akinlami. Tonight, Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, insists there is evidence of plan to destabilize the administration of President Buhari. Police rescue Syrian kidnapped since April the 30th in Uran, the local government area of Akwa Ibom State. Human rights lawyer Femi Falana seeks federal government support for parents of kidnapped Dapchi schoolgirl Leah Sharibu, advocates a register of missing persons in the country. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison celebrates what he describes as miracle win in the country's federal elections.
On business news tonight, Federal Inland Revenue Service set to start value-added tax collection for online transactions in the country.
And on sports news tonight, Manchester City's dominance of English football continues as the Citizens beat Watford 6-0 at Wembley to win the FA Cup, with Premier League and League Cup titles already in the kitchen.
The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, is insisting that some persons are plotting to exploit national fault lines of religion and tribe to cause trouble in the country, and he wants all Nigerians to rise up against such plots. The minister is asking Nigerians to pray for peace and unity in the country so that the plans of the nation's enemies would be defeated. He made a comment at the forum in Oro Town in Kwara State.
As you are aware, a few days ago, we raised the alarm that either by themselves or via their proxies, the opposition and the presidential candidate are doing everything possible to sabotage the Buhari administration. Generally, overheat the policy and make Nigeria seemingly ungovernable. Of course, you are aware of similar alarms that have been raised by the police, the military, and the DSS. I make this request that you should all pray for peace and unity against the background of those who are daily plotting to exploit our national fault lines of religion and ethnicity. Those who masquerade as Democrats but can't take electoral defeat. Those who will not hesitate to collude with anti-democratic forces and get enders to fan the embers of violence in the country, and those who have elevated their personal ambition over and above our survival as a nation.
Meanwhile, the main opposition, that's the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has been reacting to the comments by the Minister of Information. The party secretariat, in a statement, is asking the minister to come up with evidence, if he has any, to back his claim. The statement says, and I quote, "If Lai Mohammed has evidence to substantiate what he has been saying, he knows what to do. The federal government has no answers to the numerous challenges facing the nation. Nigerians are dying daily of hardship, and all the spokesman can do and say today is to look for people and party to scapegoat for their failure." End of quote. It adds that the PDP is determined to retrieve its stolen mandate at the tribunal, and no amount of lies can distract the party from realizing that objective. The security matters now. It appears the police is trying to make some strides at ensuring that kidnapping and armed banditry is nipped in the bud. Today, men of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, in Akwa Ibom State, announced that they have rescued a foreigner who was abducted in Uran local government area of the state. Mr. Chisan Anasil, a Syrian who works with a construction company, was kidnapped on April the 30th by gunmen. The command spokesperson, Mr. Odiko McDon, told journalists that the suspects were responsible for many crimes, including kidnapping, that they have committed in Akwa Ibom and Cross-River State. The suspected kidnappers' den in Ikotayan, on the outskirts of Uyo, the state capital, was also demolished by the operatives.
Hoodlums also shot that one Sergeant Mohammed Saba, he is the personnel of 26 PMF Idoro in Uyo here, but attached to the zone on special duty. They carted away his AK-47 rifle. The state hoodlums have been responsible for a lot of kidnappings within the state and also in Cross River State. A lot of high-profile kidnappings and killings in the state, including the kidnapping of General Edet Apan, retired, the killing of His Highness Robert James, both paramount ruler of Insecurity, the killing of Dr. Udosin of St. Luke's Hospital, Anwa, etc. Suspects were also involved in a lot of robberies around Uyo and Calabar. 3 suspects who were attempting to escape during the rescue operation were gunned down.
Meanwhile, in Plateau State, the police have launched Operation Puff Adder to tackle kidnapping, armed robbery, cultism, banditry, as well as address the issue of Sarasuka group that has been terrorizing the Jos metropolis. The Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Bature Umar, says the manpower of the operation is drawn from the conventional police, police mobile force, counter-terrorist unit, special protection unit, special anti-robbery squad, State Intelligence Bureau, and State Criminal Investigation and Intelligence Department. The Acting Inspector General of Police had directed all police commands across the country to set up the special squad as part of security measures in tackling the challenges across the country. And staying with security issues, many Nigerians are not giving up yet as they wait on the government to find a lasting solution to the security challenges confronting the nation, especially in the northwest. And while the wait continues, there are controversies over the root cause of the security concerns, especially in the wake of comments by the Minister of Defense and the Chief of Army Staff.
Kidnapping, armed banditry, and violent attacks, all on the rise in many states in the country's northwest. Zamfara, Katsina, Kaduna, and a few other states within the northern region have all had tales of horror, which have either rendered them homeless or sent their loved ones to an early grave. What is more worrisome is that the stretched resources of the nation expended on equipping the security agencies appear not enough to contain the excesses of these marauders. Now the narrative seems to be changing again, with Lieutenant General Tukur Burutai's latest claim.
There are several political interests, or politicians in particular, whom saw their defeat as a way of seeing it as a defeat, and therefore they are trying to take a revenge.
It's obviously not in his thoughts that the security agencies have been pushed beyond limits. His position is probably based on intelligence reports, which he clearly would not divulge, at least not for now. The big question may be, what is the place of the Terrorism Prevention Act of 2013, which prescribes punishment for financiers of terrorism in Nigeria? So, if the politicians are truly responsible, why are they walking free? Perhaps the case is just bigger than we imagine. Could unemployment be a major factor giving rise to these acts? Many have also made reference to possible involvement of Boko Haram elements in the mix. Industrialization, progressive economic strategies, and a growing private sector may just help change the narrative. There and then, General Burutai's claim can now be re-evaluated, and Nigerians themselves will be the judge in the matter on whether the youth prefer to be used by politicians to foment violence, or they're just too lazy to pick up readily available jobs to make ends meet.
To examine this issue further, let's go live to Abuja studios, where I'm being joined by security and defense management analyst and Executive Director of the Center for Peacebuilding and Socio-Economic Resources Development based in the nation's capital, Abuja. Mr. Ayokunle Fagbemi joins us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, it's said that when the cause of a problem is diagnosed, that problem is half solved. So how would you react to the comment by the Army Chief on the cause of insecurity in the Northwest?
Interestingly, when I first got the information that a comment was so made, I did the due diligence of cross-checking appropriately from all the news media outlets. The first time I'm seeing a video clip of General Burutai's comment is now. When I did check, I discovered that the only source accredited for the comments was that of the news agency of Nigeria. And initially it was thought, could this be a fake news, a false flag, or a totalitarian tiptoe PRS information management schema? When you look at the build-up and the commentaries that have either to come upstream, and including that from the Minister of Information tonight that we just watched, it is becoming clearer that we need to do a lot more of investigative journalism. We need to do a lot more of interrogating the discourse that is now on the table, particularly mindful of the fact that what General Burutai actually said is that, and I quote, "I want to believe that most of this is involving political actors," unquote. Now, if he wants to believe that is a statement of inference of his observation and not necessarily yet that which can be alluded to any confirmatory investigative procedure of intelligence, and particularly anything that can be used within the legal and policy frameworks of the Nigerian state. How do I mean? If you're talking about banditry, what is banditry in the real sense of it? Banditry talks about you getting involved in kidnapping, in armed robbery, and things like that. And these are clearly issues of criminal acts provided for in the penal and criminal codes of the Nigerian state, which automatically means that ideally what should have happened is for any insinuation to be thoroughly investigated so that prosecution can take place. And within the national security and defense management architecture, ordinarily, you do not expect anyone to come to the public domain on any issue until a level of investigation has already been done that will lead to apprehension. And this apprehension ought to facilitate the immediate prosecution in such a manner that we can begin to allow for deterrence in such a manner that some of these things can be nipped in the bud. Particularly mindful of the fact that when you're talking about Northwest now, you've had a lot of killing that has taken place, a lot of arson that have occurred in such places. You've had cattle rustling, and these are clear criminal breaches, and they are provided for in our legal frameworks, that if there is a breach, a criminal breach of any of the legal frameworks, you are expected to go through the investigative procedure in such a manner that the appropriate legal enforcement, law enforcement entity will now be in a position to prosecute.
Well,
so
Mr. Fagbemi, if I may come in, Mr. Fagbemi, if I may come in, how do you think going forward now the federal government should be dealing with this issue of insurgency?
In dealing with the issue of insurgency, I'm happy that in your background footage reportage that you brought up, there is the Anti-Terrorism Act that was mentioned. And when you take a look at the national security strategy and you look at the national counterterrorism strategy document as well, which are the policy frameworks of the Nigerian state produced by the Office of the National Security Advisor, it means that adequate investigation ought to occur before anybody makes any comment, and then you can now begin to prosecute. What I'm looking forward to happening now is that if these were true, then it is high time that the Nigerian state, through the appropriate agencies that are involved in law enforcement, in apprehension of criminal acts, begin to bring people to book. Enough is enough of all these totalitarian tiptoe PRS information management system that we are going through. We don't need to create sensational mechanisms that will begin to disrupt the Nigerian state. We must make sure that those of us in the media, as well as those of us who are analysts, we do the due diligence of ensuring that we take a closer look at some of these comments that are being made by public officers, and we take them up on them to ensure that truly we are able to bring these things to a stop in the country.
Mr. Fabimi, thank you so much for speaking with us on the News at 10. In part 2, after the break, Enugu State government begins destruction of illegal structures near the Akanu Ibiam International Airport a day after FAN threatened to shut down the facility over safety concerns.